The Common Bond by Dorothy Thomson, taken from the autumn 1964 issue of The Vegan. The woman was lying pale and waxen as a white flower, her dark brown hair wet and snake-like over the crumpled pillow. She clutched at the sheets with a strength that made the knuckles stand out whitely in her thin hands. "He won't be long now, Mary," came a voice from the shadows where the man stood monumental and unmoving in the corner of the room. The sun was setting behind the pines, painting the clouds with abandon, splashing them with red, purple and gold as the day waned. The woman on the bed moaned, and the man moved out of the shadow. "He won't be long now, Mary, and I'm here." The marble forehead was wet, and crystal beads of pain, and the dark eyes held a puzzled look as though they sought a purpose for the body's agony. He turned to the window. He had forgotten the outside world. Voices rose up in the clear spring evening. "She's in a bad way, is Maisie. We'll have to call John." John came back suddenly from his phantom world of fear and blustered angrily from the window. "What are you making that din for? Mary's in a bad way. Be quiet." "It's Maisie," said the cowhand. "She's carving, and it isn't easy for her. Can't you come to her?" What could he do? Never before had he let a cow carve without his being near to help. He looked anxiously back at the white face of his wife on the pillow, saw her laboured breath and shouted, "I can't come. Mary needs me." "All right, we'll try and manage," and the cowman moved off into the darkness towards the cowshed from which came a troubled lowing. Hours seemed to pass. In torment of soul, John thought, "Oh God, why don't you help? What's the use of going to church on Sunday if you can't help? Oh, forgive me, Lord, I don't know what I am saying." At last the car drew up and the doctor was in and up to the bedroom. "Wait downstairs, John, I'll call you." John sat in the little low settle in the kitchen corner, his huge frame throwing large shadows on the wall, and he remembered, "Oh, let it be all right, please God, let it be all right for Mary." He prayed, but the cold grip of fear froze his heart. The doctor called, weak with misgivings. John went upstairs. Towels were strewn everywhere, and silence was there too. "Is Mary all right?" he asked, mechanically. "Yes, she'll be all right, John, but she'll need care. I'm sorry, the baby, it was a little boy, stillborn." "She knows?" asked John, and looked at his wife as he said it. He saw stark grief in the brown eyes and needed no reply. He gazed at the carefully prepared cot. Its prettiness mocked the place of death. The silence seemed like a living presence. "Sorry, John, but be thankful you've still got Mary." The doctor's words roused him. Yes, poor Mary. It's awful to see her suffer so. He took her hand. "Maisie, John," she whispered, "go to her. She's carving." She had heard and was worried for the cow, even in her suffering. "All right, Mary, I'll be back soon." As he came to the cowshed, he could see the light from the lamp under the doorway. The men were still there. Maisie hadn't calved yet. He could hear the urgent lowing. He hurried in. The cow was lying in the corner, moaning and showing the whites of her eyes. John took off his coat and set to work. Soon after, out of the dark and inexplicable mystery, where nature, cell by cell, weaves the garment of life, came a new consciousness. A calf, the colour of a polished chestnut, stood wet and wobbly on slender legs, liquid and brown, their eyes taking the first glimpse of their objective world. "A little beauty," said the cowman, "a bull calf." John put him close to the cow, which licked him with a feeble, loving tongue, and tried to rise, obeying the instinct of her life to suckle her young. "She'll be all right now," said John. "I'll get back to Mary." As he climbed the stair, he could hear her quietly crying into the pillow. "Don't fret too much. There'll be others," said John. As he sat beside the bed, she shook her head silently. He attended to his wife's needs with rough kindliness, made her some gruel, and sat watching her with anxious eyes as she tried to eat to allay his fears. After an hour, he said, "I'll go and see if Maisie's all right, and lock up." He went outside and walked towards the shed in the clear spring night. Life and its urgency was whispering everywhere. The hawthorn bore its burden of whiteness in the waking woods, and the green fingers of spring were unfurling on every tree. He could feel them in the darkness. The nesting birds, now quiet in the night's stillness, had filled the day with labour, love and song. How full of joyous promise all nature seemed, while upstairs in the little lamplit room had lain a small thing whose eyes had never opened to the light. His mind took in the still beauty of the night, and it deepened with the sorrow of his heart. He went into the barn where Maisie was contentedly suckling her calf. He went over and patted her smooth flank and then softly stroked her head. "Good old Maisie," he said. "You'll be fine soon." "We'll be off now," said the cowman. "That young bull calf will be off to market soon, I dare say." Something clicked in John's brain. The cowman's voice became confused with Maisie's lowing and Mary's quiet sobbing for her lost child folded in the arms of grief. Anger seized him. "You keep your hands off that calf, or God help you. Let him bide with Maisie."